In today's show, we're going to finish up PowerApps Repeating Tables. This is the third in our series and in the last one. In this video, we're going to work on things like the inline editing, the deleting, talk about how to make the save buttons kind of come and go as you please. So lots of little variables, lots of little pieces that really makes your app polished and avoid your users from losing data. Should be fun. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with PowerApps 911. Those guys. And today, we're going to finish up our expense report. All right, so over the course of teaching you guys how to do PowerApps repeating tables, just like we used to have an InfoPath, we've been doing this expense report app. And so in the first video, we talked about how to get the data in, how to build that repeating table, right? That real crown jewel moment we're all excited for. The second video, we talked about how to display the data, so how to use cascading galleries and make an experience where we could edit a single entry kind of after the fact. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to dive in and we're going to show you how while you're doing the data entry, you can actually let the users edit and delete the records and kind of work with the data a little more the way they'd want to. And the reason we pull this off at the end is there's a lot of little complicated things, right? This may be the most complicated PowerApps video I've made, so I'm a little nervous about it, but we're going to go in there, we're going to hopefully break it down so you guys can follow along. Because what happens is we end up setting all these little temp variables and things like that that can get real confusing if you're not careful, but we'll try and do a good job of it. So I think it's enough of an intro. Let's switch over to my desktop and let's just take a look at what we're going to build. Over here, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through this first app that I made, right? This is the example app that's got all the fancy customizations. And so we're going to look at that to see what we're going to build in this example. So we're going to click on Create New Expense. And we'll say expense name is Trip to Moon. I don't know. And then we'll pick a date. Oh, and we'll do what I do all the time, right? Pick a date and then click OK. We'll say hardware, total expenses currently 0. Okay, so if we start to type in car, and then we'll say expense amount for that is 111. Now notice we have the save button just like in our other app. That's cool. We also have a remove. So if we hover over, or if we click on this icon, that will just delete this row out of our collection altogether. And notice that while we have made changes up here, but we haven't hit save, we have unsaved changes, so we can't save. The important reason for that is because this collection doesn't get updated until a user clicks this save button. So if I was to save my form right now and submit it, none of these changes will get pushed out there. So that's why we have to kind of account for that. Now when I hit save, look at that, we reset things so that now the save button's available because this line doesn't have any edits. But as soon as we start to type in this line, so if we do boat and click out of it, we get the save locked out again, right? So on change for this one, we're going to set it so that we're not allowing the save again. So that's an important piece of the dynamic. But we could be like, oh, I don't actually need boat, no big deal. Let's get rid of that. So we'll do that. All right, so save is back as an option. Good, good. And we have the edit pencil up here. So if we hit the edit pencil, it's going to, right, because right now I can't edit these items. They're uneditable, they're just displayed. If we hit edit, it makes them editable again. Save is still an option because we haven't changed the collection. But if we say car becomes cars, and then click over here, boom, you have unsaved changes. So we'll say save those. Now I do want to show you one thing because I guess I did a bad job of this. But so if we say edit, and we're like, oh no, it wasn't supposed to be car. Now you're like, wait a minute, Shane, you can still hit save. If I go down here and try to click on save, I have unsaved changes. So what happens is this is called on change, but the on change doesn't take effect until I leave the box. But as soon as I leave the box and click on this, the value of this changes, and so it disables it as I'm pressing the button. So that's the reason you can't save those changes. So just in case that comes up to you, like, wait a minute, that's a little weird. Now, one thing I didn't do that I probably should have done is right now, if I click this, this is going to delete this whole line instead of canceling my changes. If you needed to do that, that would just take a whole bunch of you capturing stuff in variables. Kind of sounds a little like a pain in the backside to me, but you could do that if you really needed to. So, but we're not going to cover that in the video. Okay. Also notice up here, like I formatted this as currency. I think you already know how to do that, but we'll talk about that for a second. And that's what I want to do in this video, is just walk you through the mechanics of all of these different icons. Because it turns out that the pencil versus the save and the delete, it causes a lot of grief. So, all right, let's jump over there and take a look. So we'll go over here. And what we want to do is we'll go over and play with our create new expense. All right, so we'll hold down the Alt key, press create new expense. So that jumps us over to this screen. And so now we want to kind of dive in and update some of this. And I think the first thing we'll do is we'll add the remove button. So let's grab our gallery and let's just make it a little bit wider. Whoop. And then we'll say insert an icon and we'll do the cancel. Probably should have done the trash can, but since I showed you the other one a minute ago, we're going to stick with that so it looks like the other screen. Now remember, this has got to, you don't want to mess up our tabs. So we'll make sure it's a little bit lower down here. There we go. It feels good. We'll make it up here. We'll kind of bring it up to be the same size. All right, so you can play with the formatting, the sizing, making it all good. But don't mess up your tabs by putting this X too high, right? That's the important thing. Okay, so then that would give us the X. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say when you select that, what do we want to do? We want to remove from our expense collection this item, right? Plain, simple, no problem. Should be straightforward. We've done this before. This is just working with collections. I guess I'll tell you there's a link below to the collections video also if you're like, whoa, collections again, hard. But hopefully if you followed video 1 and video 2, you pretty much know what's going on now. Okay, so that'll remove the item. That'll save the item. Now what we want to do is we want to make it so that after you save the item though, these icons go away and then we can show that edit pencil, which we'll have to put in place. But how we're going to do that is we're going to come in here and we're going to add another column to our collection to track whether or not that should be shown. So what we'll do is we'll go back over to screen 1. And we'll say, all right, screen 1, we create the collection, we set expense collection, line item, line cost, and we're going to add another one. And we'll do a comma there though. And we'll say, show save. Make it real easy. Say show save buttons, just like that. And we'll set it to true. All right. That looks good. So then now I'll hold down the Alt key again. I'll press this. So that's going to create the collection, bring us over to this screen. And so then now what we want to do is we want to set the visible property of these two to be derived from that show save. So I'm going to click on this guy. And I'm going to say, actually, let's take these and let's name these real quick. Because what I found is that especially as we start making these disappear, it's almost impossible to work with these if you don't have them, so you know what they are. Okay, so icon save, good. So we'll say icon save, visible for you is now not true, but it's going to be show save buttons. Boom. And then the visible for the X, right? We can do the same thing. You can either say show save buttons, that would work. Or remember our advanced trick is we could say, all right, I just want you to be icon save dot visible. So then if icon save is visible, this guy's visible. If icon save is not visible, this one's not visible. So that's one of those tool things that helps you if you have lots of complex formulas for visible. Instead of pasting that formula over and over again, just set it once and then tie it, right? So there you go. So then now when you enter an item, we want to make all of this go. We also need to change these expense fields so whether or not you can edit them. So if we click on input item and we say, all right, what is your display mode currently? Your display mode is edit. That seems right. But what we really want to do is we want to say if our say show save buttons. So if show save buttons is true, then display mode is edit. If show save buttons is false, then display mode is view. And that's how we're going to determine whether or not these fields are editable at any given point. Same type of logic, right? If these buttons are being shown, it's because I want them to be making edits over here. If I don't want them to be making edits over here, these buttons aren't shown. So everything's kind of tied together. So over here, we'll then say, all right, your display mode, right? We can make it that same formula again, or why not just do our same crazy idea of input item dot display mode. Now they're tied together. Yeah, look at that. We set one variable and 4 things are going to change their visibility or not without a lot of work on our part. So then what we need to do now, let's go back to this save button and say, all right, when you're selected, so on select, we need to update two things here. One is we need to say, all right, well, when we select that, we need to change our show save buttons, not allow save buttons, show save buttons. And we're going to change that to false, right? Because we want to make for this line in the gallery, we want to make it false. But we'll copy that real quick so I don't have to type it all again. For the next line, right? So remember, because this is what takes care of writing back all of the changes. This next line is what makes the next line in our gallery, or AKA our repeating table. So we're going to say, hey, we need to show those buttons. So we'll say true for that. Okay? Are you a little bit lost? Maybe. That's okay. Let's go click the buttons and show you. And that's the thing I'll warn you about this video. If you get lost for a minute, don't give up. Give yourself a couple of seconds to come back when we kind of wrap up the story. So let's go back to screen 1 and see if we can make it make sense what I just did. So create new expense. All right, so test. We'll give it a date. I will remember to click OK, which I always forget to do. It's travel. So we're going to go down here. We're going to type in cars. Or cares, apparently. And we're going to do 150. We're going to press save. Now watch what happens. So the buttons are gone here. These fields are not editable anymore. That second line on the on select, though, made these available, right? So added the second row to our repeating table. So these are editable, and there's the buttons. Kind of cool? I think it's kind of cool. Okay. So then now that we understand that, hopefully, right? Yay? Yay. Okay. Now that we understand that, what I want you to do is let's go back over here and say, all right, well, I need to add a button, right? Because we want to have a button that shows up. Remember the edit pencil. So I'm going to click on my gallery, get me back up here. Let's insert another icon. So icons, edit. We're going to drag him over here. Oh, we're going to make our gallery a little bigger real quick too. Why? Just because I don't want the buttons to overlap, right? You always got to be kind of careful. You can make stuff overlap, but you got to do it in a very specific order. So I just try to avoid having overlapping items, because what happens if one's on top of the other and the other one takes non-select before it does, then you can't click the button underneath it. It can just be weird. So I'm going to be cognizant of that and put it over here. Now, because these aren't visible, they wouldn't have that issue. So technically I could put this right on top. Let's be brave. What the heck? We'll put the pencil right on top of those two. And you can see it looks really bad down here. And so first off was handle the visible. So the visible for this guy, what is it? It's just the opposite of the previous one. So what that was show save buttons, right? Remember? And so our exclamation point just says not. And so the not, the opposite of a true false variable, is just the opposite, right? So true or false. So when it's currently false for this one, which is what's hiding the save icon and the delete icon, the opposite of that is true, which is showing the pencil. So that's how we get this idea of the two toggling back and forth, but they'll never show at the same time because they're set on an opposite parameter. Yeah. All right. So what do we want to do when they click on that? Oh, that is a great question. So let's go up here to the on select and let's think about how to handle when they click on that button. So we'll get rid of that. Well, the first thing I think we want to do is we probably want to change our view back, right? Because we need to set it so that the pencil goes away and we see the save and whatever. So I'm going to say, we'll do a patch. We're going to patch expense collection. We're going to patch this item. And what are we going to patch it with? We're going to say, hey, show save buttons. Oh, we got to put our explanation or our curly braces in first though. There's show save buttons. Hey, oh, so many mistakes. See, I hate when PowerApps does that. I started to type it and then it finished, whatever. All right, so say show save buttons. And so then now we want to set those back to true. Curly braces and boom. And what's going to happen when we do that? Well, let's hit play and show you. So if I click this button, right, we're right back into this case where we can say, all right, we can edit these again. Yay. And we hit save again. We get this back. Now notice when I hit save, it created an extra row down here. We'll have to account for that in a minute, but we're not ready to do that yet. So let's X out of there. Okay, so when you click the edit pencil, it just sets that stuff in there. That seems reasonable to me. But what we want to do here also though, is I'm going to add another item. So I'm going to do a semicolon and I'm going to say update context. Right, so it's going to create a contextual variable. And what is that variable going to be? It's going to be, we'll call it, oh, put the curly brace in, we'll call it edit pressed. And we're going to say true for that. Okay, why? Because remember just a second ago, I created this extra line by saving. I don't want to do that. So we're going to go, now that we understand that that's done, we're going to go back to the icon save. And this is why I named them to make my life easier. And we're going to say, okay, when you save, right, we only want to create that next row if we weren't in editing. So we're going to say if, it was edit pressed. Yep, so if edit pressed, right, so if edit pressed is true, then we don't want to do this, right? So we would do a whole bunch of nothing. And if it's not true, we're going to do, oh, we're going to put the mouse right here. We're going to do this. So this is how we know whether or not to write that next record. So, right, we have the contextual variable called edit pressed. And so when we pressed on this icon, we set edit pressed to true. So then the save's like, hey, edit pressed was true, so false. That means this don't do anything. But if it wasn't pressed, so like when I was creating a new item, then we would collect and do this. And so then after we get done with that, what do we need to do? We need to update our context again. And we need to say edit pressed is back to false. Just like that. Does that help? Does that make a little bit of sense of how that works? Let's try it and see. So we hit play. Okay, so remember a minute ago we hit edit and then we hit save. It made this extra line down here. Let's hit save this time. I mean, we can make a change. We can not make a change. It doesn't matter. We say save. So this got updated, but we didn't create another blank row. So that was what the importance of setting that variable when we click this to change the behavior, because we know if I hit save on these guys, right? So if I go in here and say, well, here, let's delete this one. So we'll use the remove. Yeah, that still works. Let's call this plain 22. If I hit save now, right, same save button, but what happens is my new row gets created. No, my new row did not get created. That's not cool. Why didn't my new row get created? Let's go back to the beginning. Let's go over here. Let's say screen one. Say play. Sometimes my stuff just gets out of whack. Say create new expense. All right, that all looks fine. So we'll do tractor. I don't know why I'm doing tractor. 33, we'll say save. Shoo! I just got my variables out of whack. So that looks good, right? And we go in here, we're like dog is 33 also apparently. So then now we'll go edit tractor. We'll say tractor was actually supposed to be 330. We'll say save. No new item gets created. That's perfect. We'll go down here. We'll say expense item cat. That we'll say save. Shoo. Okay. So, right, one of those things to remember about preview is sometimes it makes you think things are messed up and it's actually not. Okay, so I think we'll keep soldering on here. So we'll X out of this. So that's made it so that we can work with our data, we can edit, and we can do our saves. So the only other thing I think we need to talk about is how to make sure we don't lose changes. Because right now, let's go actually back to preview. Boo. If I start typing in, oh, that's not what I would type in there. I would type in boat. If I type in boat, remember, and then I leave, if I was to hit this save right now, boat is not going to get written to the data source because the collection has still got that empty record. We have not hit the save button, which takes the value here and writes it to the collection. And the save button just pushes whatever's in the collection. So what we need to do is we need to make it so that when people change this, the save button is disabled. Oh, all right. So let's take care of that. So let's X down here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of the onChange property of these fields. So we're going to say, all right, onChange for you, what do I want to do? I'm going to set a variable, Yeah, we'll set. We can update context. We can do it anyway. We'll set it. We'll say set allow save to be, or no, let's see. Needs saved. How about that? That'll make more sense. Needs saved to be true. And it's not like that though. It's just like that. Okay. So anytime you change this field, it's going to set a variable that says needs saved to be true. So if we go over here, we're going to do the same thing. We'll say, we'll just copy this, Control C. So we'll click on this one. We'll say your on change is set needs save to be true. All right. So that'll work. And so then we'll go down here to the save button and we're going to say, all right, save button. You're not visible because we want it always to be visible. We're going to set your display mode. We're going to say your display mode if, we'll say if, oh, it helped like a type, wouldn't it? If needs saved, right? So remember if needs saved is true or false. So if needs save is true, then the display mode is going to be view only. If display mode is not set to that, then it's going to be to edit. So boom, just like that, that will give us the functionality we need there to make the save button only be clickable when we need it. Now what we need to do though is, so we've made the on change, but once they get done making the changes and they do hit the save button, so let's click on our save button, icon save. Once again, we got another line up here. Sets need save, we're going to set it back to false because we'll now have saved all the data. So last but not least, we need to go back over here to create new expense. And we're going to say, hey, make your new form, collect all of that. Actually, you should be fine. Yeah, what the heck? Let's try it. So we'll hit play. We'll say, create me a new expense. All right, so the save button works right now, right? Because there is no, nothing's been changed. If we go in here and we type in car and we hit tab, and then go to our change. Now you can see here that the button's here, but I can't click it. So that's actually kind of just annoying to your users. So instead of where I used the display mode of view, let's back that up. And let's use the display mode of disabled. So that way the button's actually a different color. See, now it's there, but it's grayed out. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a little label on the screen. I'm trying not to make my user sad. So I'm going to grab a label. I'm going to throw it down here. And I'm going to set the text to be, you need to save your line item first, right? And you probably have a nicer message than that. I'm going to set my color to be red because warning text is always in red. We'll make it a little bigger so they can actually read it. And then we're going to set the visible for my label to be, oh, not to set the save, but it's going to be based off of needs saved. So if needs saved is there, then that is up. All right, I feel a little better now. Let's see, I think this will demo better. So play, create a new expense. So you need to save your item, right? Because it knows that when you came in, it's always false. And basically, it's not letting them ever save it without having an item up here. But if I'm like car 12, we say save. So now my save button is back. If we go down here, expense item, I type in boat and I hit tab, then it's like, hey, you've got changes over there you need to save. Okay. So then the other thing though we'll need to do, so let's get rid of this line. Oh, so we need to make sure that when we get rid of a line that it gets rid of those changes. So let's do that. So we'll say when they click on icon delete, on select here, what do we want to do? We want to set need save to be false. All right, we don't need any saves at that point. Good, good, good. And the other thing we're going to need to do is think about our pencil here. So when they click on the pencil, do we need to change anything about need save? No, right? Because just because they clicked on the pencil doesn't necessarily mean we need to click it. It's not until they actually make an edit. So let's go over here and click on create this again. Oh, we'll say play, create no expense. All right, so if we go in here to expense item and we're like taco. Oh, yep, tacos need save. We'll say $4 taco. We'll say save. Okay, we're good. We got burger, $3 burger. Man, that's a pretty cheap burger. Hit save. All right, so that seems right. We can get rid of this line. That's fine. Oh, but tacos were actually $4.50. So we'll go up here, 4.5. And then we click away. You need to save your line item first. We'll say save. Boom. I feel real good, guys. How about you? Other thing we had that we didn't cover is the whole idea that you might want to put a text function around this to make it look a little nicer. So boom, we'll do that real quick. Doom. We talked about this in the previous video, but this is the format that I would use for the text function. 750. Looks good to me. Other things you'd probably put is a label up here, maybe some instructions on how to fill these out. Those type of things would help, but I think this shows you the inline editing. As I warned you ahead of time, right? It's complicated, it's weird. You'll probably come up with scenarios I haven't figured out, but now you've kind of seen the mechanics of how you do that, right? We use variables and line item properties to make it so all the different scenarios that you want to have work. And it could be, we talked about, maybe you want to go in and enhance the app and make it so they click the X when they're in edit mode, they do a cancel, right? And so you just have to store the values you wanted to write back and then change the button's behavior to say, if in edit mode, we just reset the stuff back. If it's not in edit mode, we delete the line, right? You can kind of start to build that logic, or maybe just have 3 buttons, an edit button, a save button, a cancel button, and a delete button. 4 buttons, I can't count. There's a lot of different options available to you. It's just about working it out. But once again, I tried to help you with the mechanics. So as always, if you need help with any of this, you know where to reach me. Leave me comments below. You can tweet me. You can hit me up through PowerApps 911. This is the same type of stuff I do for lots of my customers. So I'd love to work with you directly, get on a screen sharing session and build your expense app or your other app together. These are the type of things I do. So thanks and have a great day. Hey, it's me again. If you got a second, click the subscribe button. That always keeps me making more videos. Or if you want to work together, need some help getting your Power Apps going, hit me up at PowerApps 911. Always happy to work together. Or finally, if you're really just looking for more videos, that's probably what it is. Check out the Power Apps playlist over here and enjoy that. All right, thanks and have a great day.